Hello, dear students. Today I will discuss part 5, that is last part of unit 1, solid state. After studying part 5, you will be able to correlate the electrical and magnetic properties of solids and their structure. Then you will be able to solve the questions based on electrical and magnetic properties. And in last, I will discuss some important points or terms which may be helpful to learn unit 1 thoroughly. First, now we have to focus on electrical properties. The electrical properties are defined on the basis of electrical conductivity, which varies from 10 की power minus 20 to 10 की power 7 ohm inverse, meter inverse or Siemens meter inverse. So, on the basis of electrical conductivity, solids are classified as 3 categories: conductors, semiconductors and insulators. Now, first of all, you have to focus on conductor. Those solids which allow the passage of electric current and have conductivity range from 10 की power 4 to 10 की power 7 ohm inverse, meter inverse is known as conductor. On the basis of the region for conductivity, the conductors are further divided into two parts: one metallic conductor and second electrolytic conductor. As the name indicate, metallic conductor, they are metals which conduct electricity either in solid state as well as in molten state or in liquid state or gas state. This is due to the presence of free and mobile electrons. One more thing, you have to know that about the metal, the conductivity of metal decreases with rise in temperature. But here students always think about conductivity increases with rise in temperature. But in case of metal, the conductivity decreases with increase in temperature. This is because the positive kernel begin to vibrate and thus create hindrance to the flow of electricity, that is, provide resistance. Therefore, conductivity in place of increasing, here decreasing with rise in temperature. Second, in conductor, electrolytic conductor. Here the name indicate they conduct electricity only in molten state or aqueous solution, because here the conductivity is due to free ions, which is not possible in a solid state. That's why in a solid state these conductors are behave as insulator, but when dissolved in aqueous solution or in molten state, now the ions are free and start conductivity. This point you have to focus. About the conductors. Second, semiconductors. Here the electric conductivity is due to presence of impurities and the conductivity range from 10 की power minus 6 to 10 की power 4 ohm inverse meter inverse. In case of semiconductor, generally they show conductivity on increase in temperature. Now, third, insulators. They do not allow the passage of electric current and their conductivity range 10 की power minus 20 to 10 की power minus 10 ohm inverse meter inverse. So on the basis of conductivity, solids are of three types. Now, distinction among conductors, that is metals, insulators and semiconductors on the basis of band theory. Here two type of bands are shown, one valence band and second conduction band. Look the diagram. In case of metal, the valence band and conduction band overlap, either they have very small energy gap. That's why the electron can jump from valence band to conduction band. About this band, you just know about the molecular orbital theory. Here two type of orbitals are there, one bonding orbitals and second anti-bonding orbitals. Like that, they also have two type of bands, one valence band and second conduction band. So that's why metal show more conductivity in comparison to semiconductor and insulator. Now focus on the second diagram. For semiconductor, in between valence band and conduction band, a small energy gap. That's why generally semiconductor behave as insulator, but on increasing the temperature, the electron can jump from valence band to conduction band. That's why semiconductor with rise in temperature show the conductivity. Now next, insulator. Here in between valence band and conduction band, a very large energy gap is there. That's why the electron cannot jump from valence band to conduction band, and hence they do not show any conductivity. So on the basis of band theory, you can also define about the conductor, semiconductor and insulators. Now next heading, we have to know that doping. This word you have listened so many times. In the athletes case or cricketers, here this doping are basically belong to semiconductors. As you know that semiconductors do not show the conductivity at low temperature range, but we make them conductor on introducing a small amount of impurities. And now this type of semiconductor is known as extrinsic semiconductor. So now first of all we have to know about the doping. The conductivity of intrinsic semiconductor, that is pure semiconductor, is increased by adding an appropriate amount of suitable impurity. This process is called doping. This is also type of electronic imperfections. It can be done by adding of either electron rich or electron deficient impurity to pure silicon or pure germanium. That's why such defect is also known as electronic defect. Now on adding impurities, two type of semiconductors are generated. One is N-type semiconductor and second is P-type semiconductor. So first we have to focus on N-type semiconductors. Here N indicate the negative. That's why it also show electron rich impurity. Here silicon and germanium which belong to group 14 elements are added with arsenic or antimony or bismuth, which belong to 15 group elements. That is, when doping occurs in silicon and germanium with group 15 elements, now the 4 valence electron of germanium and silicon are balanced by 4 electron of arsenic, but 1 electron out of 5 electrons is left, that's shown in the figure. Due to this electron, these conductors are known as N-type semiconductor. Here the conductivity is due to the presence of negative charge electron. Hence, silicon doped with electron rich impurity is called N-type semiconductor. Second, P-type semiconductors. This is also known as electron deficient impurities. In this case, silicon and germanium, that is group 14 elements, are doped with group 13 elements, that is boron, aluminum, gallium, indium or thallium. Here, silicon and germanium have 4 valence electron, but boron, aluminum have 3 valence electron. That's why electron deficient holes are created. These holes behave as positively charged. That's why it is known as P-type semiconductor. The conductivity is due to the presence of positive hole. These electrons are positively charged and are moving towards negatively charged plate. Hence, this type of semiconductors are called P-type semiconductor. Look the diagram. 3 electrons of boron are balanced by 3 electrons of germanium or silicon, but 1 electron hole are seen here that behave as positive hole. Hence, this is the example of P-type semiconductor. Hence, you have to know that for formation of N-type semiconductor, you have to doped with group 15 elements, and for formation of P-type semiconductor, the doping should be group 13 elements take place. Now, we have to focus on some questions based on electrical properties with their answer. Question number first. What type of semiconductor is formed when silicon is doped with arsenic? Here group silicon belong to group 14 and arsenic belong to group 15. That's why this produce N-type semiconductor. So the answer is N-type semiconductor is formed when silicon is doped with arsenic. Second question, what type of semiconductor is obtained when silicon is doped with boron? Here boron belong to group 13. That's why it generates P-type semiconductor. Therefore the answer is P-type semiconductor is obtained when silicon is doped with boron. Now we have to know the last property, magnetic properties. First of all, we have to know that how the magnetic property originate. For this, magnetic property originate from two type of motions. First, its orbital motion around the nucleus. Second, its spin around its own axis. That is, motion around the nucleus, that is known as revolvation, and spin around its own axis, that is rotation. Look the diagram to understand these two type of motion. These two type of motion are actual cause of generating magnetic properties. Now, on the basis of their magnetic properties, all the substances can be divided or classified into 5 categories. 1. Paramagnetic, 2nd. Diamagnetic, 3rd. Ferromagnetic, 4th. Antiferromagnetism, 5th. Ferromagnetic substance. So first of all, we have to focus paramagnetic. As the name indicates, paramagnetic, this substance contains unpaired electrons. This can be defined as the substances which possesses permanent dipoles and attracted by magnetic field, and they also contains unpaired electrons, are known as paramagnetic substance, and the process is known as paramagnetism. Some common examples are there. O2. O2 is paramagnetic according to molecular orbital theory, in which two unpaired electrons are found in anti-bonding molecular orbital. Copper 2 plus, which have 3d9 electrons, that is one electron is unpaired. Iron 3 plus, copper 3 plus. These are the common examples of paramagnetic substance. Paramagnetic substance lose their magnetic property in absence of magnetic field. Now second, diamagnetic substance. These substance weakly repelled by magnetic field, and they are weakly magnetized in the magnetic field in the opposite direction. These materials have paired electrons. That's why it is known as diamagnetic substance. Common examples: NaCl, water, benzene, etc. Now third, ferromagnetic substance. Those substances which are strongly attracted by magnetic field and show permanent magnetism even when the magnetic field is removed. That is, this also shows the magnetic property in absence of magnetic field. Here, each domain acts as tiny magnet, and the magnetic moment of domains in the same direction. If arrow shown to you like this, so this is show the ferromagnetic substance. The common example of these type of substance are iron, cobalt, nickel, CrO2. CrO2 is used in audio and video tapes, etc. Next, antiferromagnetism. The substance which possesses paramagnetism or ferromagnetism but magnetic moment of domains in a compensatory way so as to give a net zero magnetic moment, that is one arrow above side to the next below side, they cancel each other, that's why they show no magnetic moment. The common example is MnO. One more example you can note it down: NiO, FeO. Now last, ferrimagnetic substance or ferrimagnetism. They have large magnetism but actually have a small net magnetic moment, as the magnetic moment of domains are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction but in unequal number. That means if two arrow shown to above side, then one arrow below side, so one cancel one but one are left. That's why they show some magnetic moment but less than ferromagnetic substance. The common example is FeO4, that is known as magnetite, MgFe2O4 and ZnFe2O4. These are commonly known as ferritides. So these are the basic classification of solid on the basis of their magnetic properties. You have much more focus on arrows. If all the arrows are above or downward side, it is ferromagnetic. If one arrow is up and one below, it is antiferro. If two up, one below, it is ferrimagnetic. And one examples you have to learn. Now, some question based on magnetic property with their answer are also given here. Question number first: what type of magnetism is shown by a substance if the magnetic moments of domains are arranged in same direction? The directions are same, so that's why this indicate ferromagnetic substance, and the type of magnetism is ferromagnetism. Second, define the following term. This type of question may be also arises. Ferromagnetism. Here, materials which are strongly attracted by magnetic field are called ferromagnetic materials, and the property thus exhibited is called ferromagnetism. The common examples are iron, cobalt, nickel, etc. Question number third: write the type of magnetism observed when magnetic moment are oppositely aligned and cancel out each other. Here that means one arrow upside, then second below side. That's why this indicate antiferromagnetism. So your answer is antiferromagnetism. This you have to write in the board examination. Question number 4. Write the type of magnetism observed when magnetic moments are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction in unequal number. Here the domains are unequal in number. That's why it indicates ferromagnetism. So the answer is ferromagnetism. Question number 5. What type of substance would make better magnets, ferromagnetic or ferrimagnetic? As you know that ferromagnetic is a permanent magnet. That's why the answer is ferromagnetic substance. Question number 6. What type of magnetism is shown in the following alignment of the magnetic moments? All the arrow are same side. That's why it belongs to the ferrimagnetism. This type of questions is asked in the board examination. Now lastly, I have to focus some important points which may be helpful to learn and understand the chapter and also helpful in your competition examination. Point number 1. Here one oxide is given, that is known as rhenium oxide. This is behaved just like a copper in its conductivity and appearance. That's why one question may be arises, which metal oxide just like behave as copper. So your answer is rhenium oxide. Second point, Curie temperature or Curie point. It is the temperature above which either ferromagnetic substance or ferri or antiferromagnetic substance or solid become paramagnetic. This is due to randomization of their spins, is called Curie temperature or Curie points. For example, ferrimagnetic substance Fe3O4 become paramagnetic when heated to 850 Kelvin. Below this temperature, it behave as ferrimagnetic, but above this temperature, it behave as paramagnetic. Like that, antiferromagnetic solid B2O3 become paramagnetic when heated to 750 Kelvin. For iron, the Curie temperature is 1033 Kelvin, and for nickel, the Curie temperature is 629 Kelvin. So you have to know about Curie temperature. Third point, 13-15 compounds and 12-16 compound. As the name indicate, 13 group and 15 group when combined, they just behave as semiconductor. Like the when group 12, group 16 compounds are formed, when group 12 and group 16 are combined together, they also behave as semiconductor. Combination of groups 13 and 15 or 12 and 16 to simulate average balance of 4, as in germanium or silicon, are known as 13-15 or 16-12 compound. Some examples are given here. Group 13-15 compounds, indium, group 13 elements when combined with antimony, group 15 elements, that form INSB. Like that ALP, GAAS, these compounds belong to group 13-15. 12-16 compounds, Zn belong to the group 12 and sulfur belong to the group 16. When they combined, they also form semiconductor and the compound is group 12-16 compound. Some more examples is also given here. CDS, CDSE and HGTE. Here GaAs is used in new generation semiconductor device. So maybe this type of question may be arises कि which group elements when combined to produce new generation semiconductor device. So your answer is GaAs, gallium arsenic compound. Next 4 point, pyroelectricity. Here the word pyro means heat. That's why the electricity produced on heating in a polar crystal is called pyroelectricity. Fifth, piezoelectricity. Here the electricity is produced by the mechanical stress. Hence, when mechanical stress is applied on the polar crystal, electricity produced due to displacement of ions. That's why it is called piezoelectricity. Point number 6, radius of tetrahedral voids. One formula I have to learn. Small r indicate the radius of tetrahedral voids and capital R the radius of sphere. Here r equal to 0.225 capital R. Similarly, radius of octahedral voids, small r equal to 0.414 capital R. Here again capital R is radius of sphere. Now one questions on the basis of radius of octahedral voids. The arrangement of x minus ion around A plus ion and solid AX is given in the figure, not drawn to the scale. If the radius of x minus is 250 picometer, then find the radius of A plus. To look the diagram, here black sphere show the voids and white sphere show the sphere. The black sphere are touched with the sixth sphere. That's why this void is known as octahedral voids. So for this void, we have to apply the formula r equal to 0.414 capital R. Here capital R is radius of sphere, that is given the radius of x minus 250. So on multiplying 0.414 into 250, we get the answer 103.5 picometer. Like that you can do some more question. Point number 8, radius ratio. This is equal to radius of cation divided by radius of anions. By knowing this ratio, we can find the coordination number. That is, the coordination number may be determined from the radius ratio. That is, greater the radius ratio, greater is the coordination number. Some examples are given here. Think that if the radius ratio is 0.155 to 0.225, then coordination number is 3. But if it is 0.225 to 0.414, then coordination number become 4. If it is 0.414 to 0.732, then coordination number is 6. If it is 0.732 to 1.00, then coordination number is 8. So look the ratio. More the ratio, more will be the coordination number. So maybe sometime this type of question may be asked. A compound having coordination number this, so what may be the radius ratio? So that type of answer you can find from knowing this point. Now last point number 9, effect of temperature and pressure on the crystal structure. Now if someone given to NaCl and you applying the pressure, now applying the pressure, NaCl behave as CaCl and change the coordination number. That is, more the pressure, more will be the coordination number. This can be reversed by increasing the temperature. That is, more the temperature, less will be the coordination number. That's why CaCl crystal behave as NaCl on increasing the temperature. So till here you have to know in this chapter. So you can recall one more time from part number 1 to part number 5 and also read NCERT thoroughly and do all the questions given in the NCERT book. Thank you dear students. Stay home and keep learning.